I think the milestone I have seen was from the early 2002 to 2003. So those were like I said, those data points to exchange between servers to generate the reports. Those were the early days where we still have BlackBerry.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the second episode of Hack CX. Today it's really my honor to have a really supply chain veteran. Let me introduce Chwee Beng to you. Chwee Beng, why not you introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi, thanks, Javin. Everyone, good morning. Today, I think it's a pleasure to be on this podcast together with Javin. I wouldn't say veteran. I would just say that I have been in the industry quite long enough, but there are many people who are even much longer than mine. But the last role I had was with CocoaPort. I think I was managing their China operations as a GM and also a board member of CocoaPort in the Southeast Asia region. Before that, I also had a few years of experience with the tech companies like Amazon and Alibaba. And prior to that, I was with the 3PL companies. So over the last 20 years, I think it was quite an interesting career that I have been through with the supply chain, logistics and technology companies. So I think it will be some interesting things that I saw, and it will be happy to just share my understanding of them today.
Chwee Beng, you're being modest. 20 years, some of us may not have not been born yet. That's very long for a career in the same industry. So with you mentioned that you have been 20 years in the supply chain industry. So what was your path like in this industry, in the logistic and supply chain industry?
I came in the days where we are in like 2001 to 2002. So that was like 23 years ago. So where we were still thinking about running 3PL business based on two parameters. One is whether or not how efficient you can control your cost of operation, which is the touch point cost, we call it. How to minimize the touches so that it reduces the cost of handling the material through. And then number two, there was the days where we just introduced basic system of trying to capture everything on one single operating system. And then the output will be easier to generate the basic reports instead of using manual reports. So those were the days of SAP, the Oracle, and then we try and make sure that all the data are actually well run on a centralized server, EDI, not even API, EDI, data interchanges into another server so that the data can be then downloaded clean, So these were the days where we entered the industry. And I think we have seen rapid changes over the last 20 over years, where we now see the totally different way of thinking of how to run supply chaining on cloud, how to even get supply chaining on the go, with IoT devices. So I think I would say that I've seen it, and some of it are really very interesting trends that we will see further developments in this particular area. And I certainly think AI, whatever is said and done, one of the most relevant application to is any modern use is about supply chain optimization.
Yeah, we need to dive into all these massive changes. But before we really go there, how will you categorize the milestone of all these 20 years of changes that you have witnessed? Like you mentioned about EPL, you mentioned I would imagine
EDI.
EVI, sorry.
EDI.
I would imagine that Toyota sort of make this famous in the just in case model, right? So now that you mentioned about cloud, you mentioned about doing things on the go. So can you just sort of run us through like what are the major milestones in these 20 years that you have seen, which is really impacting and affecting the whole supply chain, the whole globalization?
To be fair, the fundamentals of logistics hasn't changed. I mean, before we talk about the massive, just that the way to do it try to be as efficient as possible, because the supply chain has caused the global supplies to be so-called flatter. So in this respect, I think the milestone I have seen was from the early 2002 to 2003. So those days were like I said, those data points to exchange between servers to generate the reports. Those were the early days where we still have BlackBerry, very secure devices. Yeah, very secure devices to pass messages across to give you a report to download. So you know very clearly the inventory status. You can still pass around this inventory status by the email for your team to work on your BlackBerry device, right? Straight and simple. And then these are the milestones of 2001 to 2007. Then after 2007, you will see the advent of e-commerce, right? Where people want to talk about direct to consumer instead of retail fulfillment, instead of like B2B distribution. So e-commerce came up to be the next biggest team. So in order to serve consumer, direct to consumer fulfillment, there's a lot of effort to see how to then break up this aggregation. We call it disaggregation. That means an order that used to be this big of 100 boxes in one pallet now break up into 100 parcels, or in fact 150 parcels. So the effort to even break up into more and more materials to serve this consumer direct fulfillment become a larger chore to maintain. So because of that, our material master and our, in fact, even the MRO, the maintenance repair operation kind of material changes. And the experience part, all retail was about stocking something. And then you purchase something at the checkout. So you check your inventory by POS, meaning a point of sale, right? So you integrate your POS record, you call back your material, factory, the same thing at the point of checkout of that particular point of consumption. Then you actually trigger the backwards integration of a supply to trigger the material requisition. So same thing, retail factory. But more and more, as the smart devices available from 2010 onwards, you will see that no one need to trigger anything. The sensor that is allocated at each different touch point start to be more useful. So the sensors and the calculation, this event that is scanning out of something, so the material become automatically calculated based on its replenishment plan. And the backbone or the brainchild of this a lot come with the big tech companies. They're able to do all the auto replenishment based on this checkout. And because of all these different checkout points that the sensor can capture, it become more and more a material planning job that is on the go. And that's where the cloud devices become very useful. So we move from server to cloud. Then, so by 2010, you will see IBM and the like selling all the big cloud calculation using data science, all the big data to digest all your consumption of each of the material at each different point, whether retail or at so-called factory production level, or even up to the point where we can then see whether the scan event or handheld scanners and things like that is used to check whether or not the point of delivery has been made up to the delivery point. So that's where the thinking of the IoT really started back in 2010. That's where, to me, is the milestone of cloud and IoT, 2011, 2012.
Yeah, that's really quite an interesting turn of events. The whole revolutions from just calling things out, hard and spoke kind of concepts, and now moving to the cloud, able to do it in time and breaking it down into smaller parcels. And that sounds really like a very complicated change for any companies to undertake. However, just taking a step back, right? We know that the world has changed as well. I mean, a couple of years back, everyone is talking about globalizations, e-commerce, coming into the pictures, and people are sending parcels across the globe. However, there is increasing discussions and talks about deglobalization and about becoming more regional in terms of the mindset rather than globalized. So do you think that with these changes, number one, what are the challenges that you face that you think is supply chain is facing? Number two, what else do you foresee that is going on with all these geopolitical challenges that supply chain is facing?
I would say, Javin, this is a very broad topic, and it will become more like futuristic prediction, if I may use that word. It will become rather difficult to say that how do it affect global supply chain. But the trend of trade protectionism, I think, will persist for a while. The deglobalization part, I think, if we really talk about it, it's about whether or not people still want to promote free trade, promote world trade. I mean, I think the bigger theme that is underlying it is not only just geopolitics. It's more than that. There's two things that people are getting conscious about. That is, number one, how much so-called carbonization or decarbonization we need to achieve also through less wastages, because the free trade has promoted a lot of commercialization that also promoted a lot of, I would say, wastages. Look at the amount of e-commerce packaging that we don't need to see. Last time you pack in one big carton, now you pack into 100 boxes, right? The amount of waste. So those trends are also very worthwhile of thinking through. Like you see, my green and sustainability shirt today, And my point is, the youngest one are more conscious of that consumption trend, that they want to be also more green, less, environmentally unfriendly. So because of all that, plus the fact that they believe in a different era of non-excessive consumption, they call it minimalist whatever lifestyle. So more and more, I would think that even though protectionism is one thing, consumption seems to have fallen. Mature economies' birth rate is declining. So all add up, all this, it does affect the amount of trade that we can sustain. So that kind of trend definitely will affect supply chain, not only because it has to be more carbon neutral, but more because also it has to be flatter and to be able to reach the so-called target consumer faster. How do you make it flatter, less carbon or more carbon neutral, and at the same time flatter? These are the new challenges we will see in supply chaining. And that's where I think technology will have to be used here.
So what kind of new technology do you see has surfaced that will address what you just mentioned? I'm quite sure sustainability is really a key concern with most people these days because of climate change. So do you see any new tech that's surfacing that address this concern?
In fact, in the last 5 years, if you see the ocean liners, they have already adopted a new requirement of not the balance between the coal usage in the shipping industry. So that one already is like a forced convention that people have to adopt. I think more and more the pressure will be on freight companies, even every company, to come out with carbon credits to be able to offset the amount or to make it like carbon zero neutral over time. So they have to have carbon credits to make it like that more amount of carbon that they burned could be neutralized within a certain period of time. And then one of the things that people will have to use in terms of AI agents is to be able to address one simple topic, that's placement. How to place correct calculation of the inventory to the point where there's enough inquiry of the item so that there won't be additional trips made to do, transfer of inventory across different warehouse anymore, or to be returning to certain. So they want to get more accurate placement to the inventory to that location, so that now we exactly know that this consumer will be buying exactly that. We don't have to stock up 20 other items for them just in case they need to buy, so that there will be less movement of cargo. So I think all these are the part where we will have better use of technology in terms of predictive models, less carbon usage type of shipping method. And then finally, how to come to a point where we say that, okay, there is still speed, at the same time, very able to see what consumer really needs at the closest point. So it's fast and yet not excessive wastage. Because each time you want to fulfill something at within 500 kilometers, you can imagine that people already place 20,000 items in order to get ready for 5,000 items to be sold.
Yeah, that sounds like a very hopeful thing to mention, right? When you can be very precise, it's all about precision. When you can be very precise, you don't have to go through multiple routes just to assemble one item. Rather, you can just be able to coordinate from different locations and be very precise in delivering at the right time, and for people to assemble all the things that they actually need. But is there an AI? I know you mentioned about AI agent, but is there any company or any development in this type of AI agents that you see that you can give us like case studies or help us understand that this is indeed happening, or is this still a work in development?
If you look at some of the startup these days, Jevin, I particularly look with interest one of the one that is just recently started by Dave Clark in US. He was the former CEO of Amazon. So he started Augur, Auger, Augur, quite an interesting team of assembled scientists that have worked with the Amazon science department since the early days. So I've seen some of them are the typical people who are really trying to build what we call supply chain optimization tools. So based on that, I think the availability of the cost of using the AI tools are coming down. So with that, these are the new startups they'll try to address, and then they will try to make it such a way that it's easy to plug into all the existing supply chain system, so that it will be easy to adopt like a module basis, how to calculate based on whatever media, social media's tracking of this particular consumption concentricity within certain area, to be able to see, okay, we will probably see this amount of item that will be requested within this 500-kilometer radius, of which then they will do the recommendation. And AI model, because allow it to self-learn itself, right? We call it agentic AI these days. So if they push this along this direction of agentic AI, and how the model will become even more self-refined, it will become more and more accurate. And very quickly, the data, those days we even need a lot of data, but these days you can even refine with less data, but more precision, using the latest, like they call it, it's more than deep learning, it's very deep learning already, I would say, up to the point where they can really tell based on multiple source of your internet data that this consumption pattern can emerge for better forecasting. Like I said, all this will add up to the point of how much we can reduce wastages, plus the fact that, like I said, carbon offsetting, and then to the point where I think the last part, the TikTok of the world, the TikToks of the world, the ByteDance of the world, the algorithm will also then be further refined, where we can then know what will be influencing consumption pattern very soon. And all this algorithm together with supply chain optimization, AI agents working together, it will become easier to achieve what I've said just now. Yeah.
Well, that's really quite fascinating. So in the world of supply chain, which market do you think will benefit the most? Because we all know that China is the number one exporters in the world, right? But we also understand that their economy has been affected lately. So from your experience and your point of view, is like, where do you think the money is right now in all these things that we just mentioned?
The investment for technology mostly still stays in the US. So whether or not the application becomes something that can be more commonly adopted will depend on the cost of adoption. But the total cost of adoption eventually will come to the point where we say that we tilt the balance is when we give actual savings to the entire supply chain cost. So if it's really workable, the application that is coming from the US will be adopted. And in fact, based on history, we have seen the last 20 years propagated and even made better when there's a China involved. So whatever you invent in China, they can triple the effect of it for you in China, whatever you get out from the US invention. So because of that, I think that the China-US so-called international trade thing will not really, they're so coupled already. It's very hard to decouple this thing. So it will still be the biggest money flow direction between this, I think, the biggest economy of the world now. And if you ask me, which are the other people that will participate actively, that will also get a slice of the pie, it will be countries like India. It will be countries like where there is enough consumption, yet also very fast to adopt new technology. I believe, and I hope countries in the East Pacific, like Korea and Japan, they will also be more attuned and will not give up their status of trying to be part of the world supply chain And like finally, I think for consumption wise, it has always been the flow of goods from lower cost production country to another bigger market of consumption. So everyone still want to sell to America, right? So I think that's the money is still flowing. Yeah.
Okay, so do you think that whole supply chain is made out of a lot of factors or elements, right? So with any new innovation, like what you just mentioned, okay, it's now become more precise. It becomes cheaper. The planning become a lot so much better, and things can move faster as well. And basically cheap and good, which is what productivity means, right? I mean, there's an increase in productivity. Then what about the people that's supporting supply chain? Do you think that they need to be retrained and change the way they work, or do you think that they will be move out of this whole progression?
I think that's a great question. I speak from personal experience for the last 24 years. Each time there's a new system, it's all about adaptability and adoption. People will do higher order, more value added things. So I don't think anything, it means that all the job will be gone in supply chaining. I don't think so. People will be somehow adapting and adopting to the point where they used to use a system. Before that, they used an Excel. So they have more useful time on their end, and they will be able to create more granularity of the work that they do. In fact, they will be widening their scope. So I think that's generally the trend. I do not see AI displacing like all the people in supply chain. I would just think that the people in supply chain will do different work with the use of AI tools, and to the point where digital assistants help them to make faster judgment, and that faster judgment help them to stimulate what they have to do with a 3-man day job on 3 sheet of Excel. They can do it maybe in 30 minutes on that digital assistant, where the AI will advise them based on this calculation. I can simulate route A, route B, route C. Just imagine you go on your Google map. In order to get from A to B, you have a choice of route A, route B, route C. They will tell you route A 30 minutes, route B 32 minutes, route C 23 minutes, but route C has toll, route B got no toll, route A got toll, right? So then it's easier for them to do judgmental decision faster. So instead of 3 person working on simulation to come to a decision, then you have 1 person querying something, or in fact, no need to query even in the future. Just click on the choices that's placing, and then the simulation comes. So they call it twin supply chain now. If you look at the science academic study, so that they will simulate A and B and C for you, and then twinning meaning that what is really going on and what could be the what if scenario for you already. So people will start to be trained to make judgment instead of doing the calculation. Yeah.
So let's say if I'm new to this industry and I just graduated and I want to enter, so what do you think I need to learn or be equipped with in order for me to not just work in this place, but also be prepared, future-proof my career in this industry?
I think it's not only for the new one. It's not really for the new ones. Everybody have to relearn, learn and live, and lifelong learn. I myself taking a lot of courses. I mean, just to make sure that I still stay relevant on my understanding of supply chain and logistic, right, technology. But I think in short and simple term, Javin, that question is everybody must come in, learn and relearn and then keep learning. So unlearn, in fact, sometimes. So I don't think there is a one way to just future proof yourself. But like I said, everybody will be coming in to the same industry. Supply chains is still needed. You still need cargo to be moved. You still need people to plan. You still need tools to be able to help you make judgment. But there's still a judgment to be made. So people still have to have higher order work. And then from there, you get used to using different application or using API link application on IoT devices where I think even like supply chain security, last time we would depend on like 1 or 2 sensor trigger item on the secure truck, to go to the monitoring center, the alarm monitoring center. Now the IoT device can be already helping you to give a live picture of what is happening on the secure cargo truck, both in the compartment box or in the front driver's seat, and then any deviation or movement is even then much better than a black box. It's a clear box already. In other words, that any deviation from the route, any accidental parking, there will be instant reminder, and there will be other security measure can already be taken place to secure the cargo, in the cargo compartment, where I think more sensors can be taken to even try and judge that there is a high risk or medium risk or low risk going on with this particular cargo based on the IoT device that we can lock into the entire vehicle. So like I said, all this is just improvisation that people will just need to make use of different tools to do their job. So it's like learning constantly to adopt these new tools.
So this is probably not a fair question, but I do want to tag on to a bit of crystal boring. So now that we see that there will be less wastage, there will be faster response, do you think if I were to buy something from Amazon's or Lazada, will my cargo cost be cheaper in the near future?
Like I said, Javin, this is the $1,000,000 question of saying that would I disaggregate my supply chain to the point that I can squeeze every single cent? Today's way of doing it is still squeezing every single cent in every single leg of the transportation journey. That part saving, I think, is hard to break through already. In fact, the energy prices has went up, so a lot of shipping costs actually went up. So the platform's ability to subsidize transportation will become less and less. So in order to really do better work at placing the right inventory at the right place, that's where I spoke about on the predictive model, where we have the right inventory at the right place for exactly what the consumer will be consuming at whichever time. So like before that not possible, now because more data is available, everything become more digitalized in the preference, in the algorithm that people can guess already through all the robots calculation. So I think if you ask me, would transportation cost per se itself in each leg reduces? No. Energy prices will remain pretty constant or even higher. But with better inventory planning, with better supply chaining of not shipping things additionally around in any additional route, and because with the choice of route, now that they can simulate for you in the twin supply chain, that I said just now, they can choose the most optimum route with the least wastage and less so-called risk of being delayed. That's why you say that you get it faster, but is it necessarily cheaper or even less? Or in fact, the route can be more carbon neutral compared to the other route. So you have that kind of things that will be coming the next 10 years, and more secure cargo. And finally, I think better placement of the right inventory at the right place. So that would be my take of how the savings will come about. If it's not really total savings, but it will be the what you call end-to-end cost of serving that e-commerce cargo.
So it sounds to me more like from a consumer point of view, I will get more secure in terms of getting what I order online, or my item will be more predictable if they say that, because currently usually e-commerce platform like Amazon will say that this thing will come to your place in say 21st to 30th February, but now they can be very precise to say, okay, you come on the 20th.
It will be like a more narrow. We used to call that narrowing the time frame. Exact term was like we call it giving it less buffer if you want to that way. So it will be saying that between 21st to 22nd instead of 21st to 8th. Yeah.
Okay.
It will come to a point where the precision helps a lot, but it also means that what the supply chain optimization tool requirements will become higher of each of this consumer platform. And that part, the large use of algorithms and all the data science will become very engrossing. And that part where I think many of the supply chain people's job will be transformed. And then that's where it will become a higher value order kind of delivery towards this industry.
Yeah, I still see the value of that even as a consumer, even if the price doesn't get any lower, because it does means that I won't be caught off guard saying, okay, I need this item and I don't have this item. I forgot to order. I don't have to think so much or plan so much ahead, just to make sure that this item come before I use them up. But from the
To be honest, Kevin, just to interject this part, not only consumer, there are a lot of industrial usage of material. It's even more critical for them for their production process. So can you imagine the time definite the replenishment become more and more just in time with minimum buffer? That really help to, I would say, optimize the supply chain cost even for industrial production. And with that, then you can really bring about real long-term savings for everyone. Like what we said, today you have smart factory. They call it the internet. They not mean the exact word is Industrial Revolution 4.0, but I think it means smart factory. So the factory is so smart that all the replenishment of the items, you don't need a lot of people. In fact, you have more robots, but at the same time, the planning of the material that goes to the production line can be smarter up to the direct, indirect material level. So I think that part, if as a whole, help to reduce cost, then the material cost and that entire finished good cost will help be more optimized as well. So I
yeah,
think that's
I mean, you just talk about a very important point because I remember when I was in Emerson, which is oil and gas manufacturing companies. For factories to run, they need to put all the different components onto one point in time at the factories. And if they can be very precise, it does save a lot of money because you don't over order. You can order what you need and then you just go through that run. And that will help in terms of the company profitability a lot. I think that's still very good news. But just going back, right, looking back for supply chains to move towards this to invest in these innovations. I'm also trying to figure out why they want to do it as well. And I think you touched on increase in productivity. And it sounds to me also that there is also a de-risking as well when they do that. Because right now, when things become more predictable, they are better in control of the situations. So looks like from what you mentioned, this is a route that there's no return. Like everyone will be moving towards that direction. So who do you think will win this AI race?
Jeff, if you really look at what businesses can deliver value, I mean, there are many theories around. If you look at the Harvard Business Review, there will be like a few metrics you can look at. But one simple theory that has always made me somehow understand whichever new business model or tools that we can go and sell, it's when you have a value capture for the customers. To me, a simple equation of the benefit that you can be associated with in this particular product, minus away the cost of acquiring, which is the sacrifice, and then divide by the risk. So if you ask me honestly, the winner will be someone who deliver the value capture to the maximum. I think we have passed the era of saying that you just make it simpler, more efficient, and better, and then you say that will be a simple value capture. I think that part of hygiene factors, addressing the hygiene factors are no longer as valuable in today's AI context, because in the AI tool context, I think what they're delivering value for is really in the form of capturing the psychological or the emotive aspect that is very customized to one particular group of people or certain assess group of people that they want to target. And that one, they can be much more accurate now with the use of AI tool to capture that emotive or that psychological value. So if you ask me again, in terms of how to ensure that the AI tool, who will be the winner? I think the winner will be whichever company can get up to the most precise learning and the trained answers that can help to be an assistant digitally to whatever user to be able to help them capture the emotive and psychological value of the business transaction rather than just addressing basic hygiene factor.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. This is really the supply chain 2.0, right? Whereby hygiene is no longer hygiene is just a minimum requirement right now. It's really going beyond that. So let's say if I'm a fresh graduate who wants to enter into this industry, so how would you advise them what kind of skills they need to acquire in order to make an impact or enter into this trade?
As the HO saying is still very valid, Javin. If you really want to let me tell everyone who wants to go into supply chain, you do one simple thing and it's always the value, you learn, unlearn, and relearn, and you keep learning. The curious to learn part, or learn to be curious, which is so relevant because there are a lot of new things evolving. We look at the twin supply chain theory that data scientists are talking about. And this twin supply chain come mainly from the fact that you can simulate route A, B, C to take, in a particular decision point for a particular supply chain decision. And that twin supply chain is that the cost and the rest of it all coming together in a matrix form that you can make judgment. If I don't go by route A, if I go to route B and route C, what would be the corresponding cost versus the benefit of, just like your Google map when you drive on the road, right? And then you take a decision of which is the most with toll or no toll, which is the longest jam and less jam route. So I think that type of toll simulation would require people to constantly unlearn and relearn new thinking in the supply chain trade. So any fresh person you come in, I think whatever you learn in school, whatever you learn in the basics, elementary part, you still have to come in and relearn that there will be new things that they will explore along the supply chain trade that will help to disrupt current way of doing things. And that's where I believe everyone has to uphold that value of trying to unlearn and relearn new things, and you live and learn to the point of you can survive long in this trade. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Last question. So we have shared, and we have mentioned quite a wide spectrum of what's happening to supply chain or how to enter the industry, as well as what are the major changes and evolutions of supply chain 2.0. So what, in a very speculative view, what do you think will be the future of supply chain? Do you still think that supply chains will continue to do well, or do you think that because of the geopolitical situations, the technology disruptions, you will see countries moving away more to the regional format with protectionisms that fence off the flow of trades, and therefore the demand for supply chains may come down? How do you view the future of this industry?
Jervin, no one can really take away international trade overnight, however way they want to do it. But no one can take away international trade overnight. The basic theory of comparative advantage to which country can produce better and then they have to trade with the others is somehow endowed already in the natural resources each country will have, right? And the kind of factors of production that is already there in that country. So if you ask me, the supply chaining part will just become more complex with more calculation required to make a trade profitable, in terms of ensuring that you have to be more able to break down the cost factor to even minor detail and disaggregated form to justify the particular trade in order to ensure that the supply chaining still become cost effective. So I think it's just that a supply chain will work harder. You may have to even think of new markets entrance that is even more difficult than the past due to regulatory requirement, but somehow you still can be able to serve that market in a cost-effective manner. So if you ask me, the supply chain people, they're not running out of job in protectionism. They just have to work harder with all the AI tools to make sure that this trade still become profitable in its whatever form. There is a higher cost of serving or higher duty. And the most important is that we must make use of tools available in the market, all the advancement in AI and the calculation and agentic AI to help us make those decisions. And that will be the part where it will make a difference to a supply chain professional, that will be a tech trained or data-driven type of a person.
Yeah, that explains a lot as well, because recently I did observe that in terms of the supply chain latest development, there's a lot of analytic tools that provides visibilities on the cargo shipments and provide more precise data on where it is and how to have a plan A, plan B scenario planning, as well as helping with all the compliance issues and the sanctions and so on and so forth. So I do see a lot of this trend coming up, and a lot of companies are also introducing such products and solutions as well. To me, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's not happening in the near future, it's really happening now. Of what the things that you have just mentioned. So thank you, Jim, for this really good insights into the supply chain industry. I really appreciate your time, and I believe our viewer will also learn a lot from you as well. Thank you so much. Do subscribe to our channels if you like this content. Thank you.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you, Jervin, for having me. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.